Hey, what's up, everyone? BDF44 coming at you with another video. So, I think there's something funny going on the internet that I'd like to react to a little bit. It's the NBA TV footage of the two analysts getting into it. One of them, Sam Mitchell. The other one, Chris. I'm not sure what his last name is. It escapes me right now. But these guys have been on NBA TV with one another for a while now. There was footage on YouTube of them 7-8 years ago. So clearly this is a long-standing colleague situation. And I guess before the Golden State Sacramento preseason game, I think that game was either last night or the night before. I actually saw a little bit of the game, but I didn't know this had occurred beforehand. They had gotten into a little bit of a tiff. Essentially what happened was they were commenting on a segment that they had right prior to their argument or whatever it was, and essentially they were saying, that coaches hadn't been given gold medals for the Olympics. And I guess Chris said to Sam Mitchell, Sam Mitchell had commented saying something along the lines of, "It's a shame they're not giving them those gold medals." And Chris commented and said, they shouldn't be giving coaches paychecks for doing this show. You should be doing this pro bono. Now, I don't know why Chris thought that would not be responded to, or that he was trying to provoke this man to do exactly what he did. I don't know, but maybe this was just a grandiose intention of clout chasing, which I don't put past anybody on the internet right now. It's kind of hard to get people to watch really anything consistently. But the thing that made it funny was what he said to the man, how he responded to it. Essentially what his intention was to say was, I know that you have money. It's not like you're not rich too, because obviously Sam Mitchell made a lot of money in the NBA as a coach and as a player. So I guess the long-standing conversation has been, Chris is more or less saying he hasn't been getting the money that he wants to get, or he isn't. Sam Mitchell should be doing this for free, while I should be making more money. And Sam Mitchell's response was to essentially say, you crying out broke, but I know where you live. I know you have a secret house in Atlanta. I know you got a rental property in Atlanta. You got another spot in Florida. And he started telling this man's business online, on television. And they're trying to segue into the beginning of the game. It's about to be tip-off. And as they go into that process, Sam is still going off. And he gives out the address to the man's place, one of his properties in Florida. Now, that's what made me think it might have been something planned to go viral, because Sam Mitchell was so very prepared with the address and the places of this man's stuff. So it's like, I don't know enough about Sam Mitchell as a person to know, does he have some great memory? Because you're going to be able to log off just run off somebody's address like that? You had to have had this in the tuck. So you were waiting for this dude to do something like this so that you could do this. And to me, that just seemed like, if I didn't know any better, I'd say Sam probably rehearsed this. This is something that he had in mind. He already memorized this man's address. He memorized what he was going to say. But you had to know that there was a chance that maybe this kid wouldn't even make all of that come to use, right? So I just don't have enough context, or haven't watched the content enough with them to know if this is a long-standing thing where he been on, on a mission more or less to express to this young co-host of his that he wasn't going to be taking any more of his crap, essentially is what it is that I'm gathering. And he even said something along the lines of, "You're going to stop embarrassing me on national television, young fella." You know what I'm saying? I told you about that. But it's like, I don't know how, and I guess the word would be petty or catty Chris often is towards Sam Mitchell. But I'd imagine it had to be an ongoing thing that they've been dealing with for a long time. Probably had some meetings as a group off camera about who's making what and who's not making what, and it's probably a long-standing thing about the finances somehow, or negotiations or something like that, because essentially Sam was saying that the kid is bragging, but also in the same breath said that the kid is crying broke. So which is it, Sam? Is the young fella saying that he's wealthy and bragging about having a lot of money, or is he crying broke and saying he ain't making no money? I don't know which is which, and that part kind of confused me in listening to the dialogue. But I encourage everybody to watch the little 2-minute segment. It's all over the internet right now. If you're interested in this conversation, because it'll give you a lot more context, or a lot more of an understanding of what took place there than I'm able to describe. But essentially, he just doxed this young fella. And the problem is, when you do that, you leave it open for a lot of things to go wrong outside of what it is that y'all got going on. For example, if you're alleging that this is his rental property and he's not there, then that means somebody who don't have nothing to do with this may be there, and you just dox them. You just put them in a position to get trolled, or somebody come by and do something weird. You know, they got all kinds. You're talking to the wide public, so you never know what people are willing to do. And while you're mad at this person, what you've actually done is given away somebody else's address, just simply because he owns the property. That can happen to anybody who's renting. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody's mad at the owner of your apartment building, now all of a sudden they done gave away your address. You know what I'm saying? It's like, whoa, what the hell just happened here? So I think Sam I think it's logical to consider him either getting suspended or fired at this point, because he crashed all the way out, and in doing so, he left himself open to be sued. He left his employer open to be sued. And it's just a bad look, man. You don't allow yourself to be in a space where you allow that to happen, man. You never do that. Where you dox somebody, tell the world where somebody lives just because you're mad at who owns the property. It's just not, that's such a safety issue, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I just thought Sam wasn't being very wise in that situation, I guess is the word I would use. I don't think it was his brightest hour, you know? I get crashing out. And if you're gonna dox somebody, make sure you're actually doxing the person you're angry at. Not that I would say that would be something you should do, because as far as I can tell, that's a federal offense. But even more so, like, what if the people who are renting his property have children? You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things that he's in the moment could care nothing less about, or wasn't even considering, and that type of thing can really open up the doors for a lot of things to go wrong, including NBA TV and their affiliates being sued, their parent company being sued by whoever is renting that property out. And so by the young fellow who owns that property, obviously their employee. You know, there's this whole situation. Like, not all content is good content. You know, sometimes content creators do things to garner attention and clout chase. Maybe they agreed to do that, but this wasn't that smart. This wasn't the way to go about it. If y'all want to argue about each other, call each other out, say this and that, cool. Once you start giving out actual addresses, then you make it a different conversation that can hurt other people, not just the person you're intending to hurt. So yeah, Sam Mitchell, you know, I'm not against him. If this young dude has been pissing him off and disrespecting him on television, and he decided he want to just say F this job and call this guy out for it, I don't have no problem with that. Because at the end of the day, it's up to you. You want to quit your job, you know what I mean? If this is what, you don't want to work with this person no more. Sam Mitchell's, I'm sure he's a millionaire at this point. There should be no reason why he just needs to work that job. You know what I mean? I don't believe that that's a reasonable thought. So you never know what a person's finances are and things like that. But at the end of the day, like I said, this man been in the NBA as a player and as a coach for over 15, 20 years before he even got to the NBA TV gig. You know what I mean? So he's made a nice fortune for himself, and if he took care of his finances, he should not be hurting for money. He should not need a 9-to-5, you know what I'm saying? But you never know. Sometimes people do, man. What's going on, y'all? All right. So that's how it goes, man. At the end of the day, if you're going to dox somebody, Make sure it's the person that you actually trying to hurt, not the people who are renting the property, children, you know what I mean, innocent bystanders, somebody sick grandmama. You don't know who he's renting the house out to, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it really comes down to for me. I think at the end of the day, there's some things that Chris could have did differently as well. If somebody tell you to stop messing with him, you know what I mean? You take the risk and you don't know how far they're going to take you. You run the risk of it being worse than you intend for it to. And that's why it's wise to just kind of leave well enough alone when you're dealing with somebody, especially older guys, you know what I mean, who already made their money, already made their name. They don't have as much to lose when it comes to dealing with you. And they got ways of sticking you that maybe you can't see in a lot of cases. People been on the earth for a while. They know people who know people. You're just getting started in the game. You're a young person. I'd imagine Chris ain't no older than 35 years of age. I don't even think he's that old. So it's like, brother, you're dealing with a man who's in his late 50s. You just got to know better than to play with him like that. And if he already told you respectfully to stop playing with him, then you run the risk of finding out just how far he's willing to take it. You know what I'm saying? That's how really it goes. And sometimes you really don't know who you messing with. And that's the thing. It's like, just because you can see all the angles to where that person ain't about to do this, and this, because if they do that, it's going to hurt them more. Don't underestimate a person's willingness to crash out, fam. Because that'll be the one time your mismeasurement of their responsibility or how responsible they are can really get you in a situation where you're dealing with more than you really ready to deal with. We done seen that in different ways in life, man. Like, that dude ain't about to do this, he ain't about to do that, because if he does this, it's gonna hurt this, and this. You don't know where that person at in their life. For all you know, this is the day they say, man, I don't care about any of those things. Or they think it's gonna go bad any damn way. You know what I'm saying? That type of stuff you just don't want to play with, man. I promise you don't want to play with that. So that's why I say, man, just don't underestimate somebody's willingness to crash all the way out. That's what I would tell you. And look, you know, I'm raised by my mother, traditional man, right? I look at myself as a traditional person, straight guy. You know what I'm saying? Come from the era where you stick your chest out. We're in a different world right now. Men act however they want to act, you know? Men can have traits that we wouldn't often see in men in the past. You know what I mean? So to say this is what men do, this is what women do, it's not gonna align in 2024. But what I will say is, what Chris appeared to be doing to me from where I'm from and how I operate isn't really something that guys do too often. You're not going to be petty and catty online and throw little slick shots at a man. You know what I'm saying? That's not very strong trait, in my opinion. It's not. If I got a problem with a dude and we're in a professional situation, if I'm handling myself the way I'm proud of handling myself, you ain't going to sense none of that. It ain't going to be none of that. If me and that man got a problem, we going to talk about it on the side. We going to straighten it out alone in a place of quiet. Peace and quiet. Ain't going to be no big hoopla. We not going to, you know what I mean? None of that. I'm not going to get all emotional with you. None of that. You know what I'm saying? Not if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, if I'm displaying the character that I pride myself on having, I ain't going to be getting in no tit for tat. I'm not going to say little slick stuff to you that's only going to be picked up by a certain couple of people or make you wonder if I'm... No, none of that. You know, I'm going to have a conversation with a man, handle it as men do, and if it's done correctly, you won't hear or know about it. We'll settle it without you ever knowing about it. I think that's how men are best for behaving. But when you're intentional on being someone who wants attention or clout chase or whatever, or if you don't have that same value system that I was raised with and how men are supposed to behave, then maybe you're going to do things that maybe I don't necessarily identify as a very masculine trait. You know, this just is what it is, man. Everybody's different. You got to have my open mind, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. But for me personally, that's just not a trait that I was raised to pride myself as a man in displaying in any way. You know, not that. That's, you know, back and forth, say a little sly stuff. Nah. No, sir, man. Especially when we're doing something professional. I've had situations where I didn't necessarily agree with people I worked with, or I didn't necessarily like them, or I didn't feel they liked me. And, you know, when dealing with those type of situations when I was young, I didn't always display myself in the best of light. I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember I had one situation where I had an open argument with a female coworker that I was working with when I was about 17, 18 years old, maybe a little younger than that. She was a real friend of mine, though. We had a personal not relationship, but a personal friendship that dated back several years before we got that job, and we had fallen out. So, in my immaturity, in my emotional state, that we had an open argument in front of other people, and I stormed off the job. So when I say that these are traits I pride myself in having, it doesn't necessarily mean I've always lived up to my standards. It's what I'm able to admit. I ain't always did it right. I'm just saying when I do it right, this is how it should be, in my opinion, for myself. So, you know, I don't want nobody to think I'm greater than thou or any way like that. I've made mistakes. Some of them are documented on this channel. So, we all learn lessons. That's the word right there. What I also want to say is, I think if NBA TV is doing this the fair way, then they will hold Chris accountable for his part in this as well. Obviously, you got to hit Sam Mitchell harder because he's out here giving up addresses and taking the conversation outside of basketball completely. It's just that's not how you handle yourself. But you got to hold Chris accountable too, because obviously if he wouldn't have thrown the little shot out there, none of this would have been transpiring at all. So that's how I feel. I think you got to get on both of them if you're going to get on Sam at all. I'd imagine you would get on Sam if you're NBA TV. But I think Chris gotta face some type of reprimand, however that goes, to a lesser degree, I believe. If they're doing things the right way, you can't let people think they can provoke other people, and then when they crash out, the only person who gets the blame is the crash out. No, the button presser definitely should be held accountable to some degree, especially if their intention is to make somebody else lose their cool. You push the button, and then you also gonna have to be held accountable if you're doing things correctly. So that's how I feel about that, man. That's about all I gotta say about that, though. I hope everybody's enjoying their day. I'm gonna give y'all more content in different ways, but that's the end of my conversation about NBA TV. Sam Mitchell and Chris, uncertain of his last name, BDL44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.